Hey guys, today we're going to look at one thing you can do. Actually, it's a lot of things, but it's one same thing you can do every time, all the time, to attract more fans, to get more gigs, to get more press, to get more attention, to get more fans. That's what you want to do. This is the thing you have to do, and anybody can do it. So just do it. I'll be right back and we'll get into it. Hey guys, it's Craig from GigFaster. If you haven't subscribed, be sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so you're notified for new videos. There's a lot of stuff coming out. Look, people think you're in competition with everybody. They don't want to give you this information that I'm giving you. And really, there's plenty of room for everybody out in the music industry. Plenty of room. Do you listen to the same band 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Absolutely not, man. We all love variety, and there's room for everybody, you know, and the more we share with each other, the better, and, you know, it's going to help everybody. It's a win-win for everybody. So maybe you're a guy that just wants to play more local gigs in your hometown. You want to be more of a local celebrity, which is kind of cool. Go to gigfasteruniversity.com and you can get information on how to book more gigs, how to promote your music, and if you want to get record label attention, there's information on that too. There's a bunch of free stuff. Be sure you check that out. Now, last week we talked about your story. Your story is the foundation for everything. Like some people might think, oh, I don't have a story, but you have a story. Everybody has a story. Look, I was just thinking today about a simple story, like thinking of like where people come from, who are successful, or, like some of the things that people might say, hey, I can't do it because, I come from here. I don't have anything. I don't have any money. I don't have any connections. I don't have this. I don't have that. Well, let me tell you, when I grew up, this is a story. This is a story that I'm talking about. Like everybody has a story, but this just comes to me, when I'm thinking about this, is that my story, when I grew up, I grew up in like a 700 square foot house. And if you don't know anything about houses or how big that is really tiny. And I'm sure some of you guys might even have a smaller house than that right now, but I bet you a lot of you have a house that's 3 times the size of that. Okay? Well, when you walk up the steps of that house, my brother and I our bedroom was just this little narrow space, and we had bunk beds, and we kept all our toys. We each had a little box we could keep under the bed. We only had one bed to put it under because they were bunk beds, and we had to be super organized because other than that, we didn't have any room for any of the stuff. And if you wanted to use the bathroom in that house, you had to go upstairs and you had to walk through our bedroom to get to the little tiny bathroom, which, by the way, was an add-on on top of an old porch. So, I mean, it wasn't even there when the house was built. I mean, it was an old house. It was little. And this is the thing. One thing I made up my mind. I said, you know what? When I grow up, I need to get as big of a house as possible. And believe me, I don't live in a mansion or anything like that. But because I envisioned it, those things came true. I decided I wasn't going to live in this little cramped little space anymore because, I was going to change my history. You know what I mean? Don't dwell on that past. It doesn't matter where you start. Your story starts here, but you control where it's going to go. Okay? So, last week we talked about story. Now, you think about what I just told you. You think of the details of all that. The shag rug. I didn't mention that, but our carpet, there was shag rug in our bedroom, and we had bunk beds, and we had these little boxes underneath. You can kind of visualize that stuff. You understand? Now, that's part of my story, and I can think of a million other stories like that to tell. And hopefully you did the exercise I said last week where you wrote it all down, just like wrote your life history as if you were going in history books, right? Now, this is what you need to do now. You need to read through there, take a highlighter, and highlight all the things you think are like the most interesting, because you know what? There could be tons of them. There could be tons of them. Just, there could be a little event here or there. Maybe something else will pop into your head now that you've thought about it, you know? And highlight those most interesting things that you have, all right? Now, these are what we call your hooks, okay? Like, think of fishing. You know, you're fishing, get your whole tackle box. That's your story. Your whole tackle box is your story. Now, what are you going to put on that hook? What is going to be your hook? What's going to be the lure to get a new fan or a new audience, a new customer? You know, fans equal customers equals money. We can keep doing this thing. That's what we want. That's the circle we're looking for, right? So now you take your story and you highlight the top 10, start with like top 5 or top 10 highlights, the most interesting things. Now, they are your hooks that you can go to Twitter and like just start feeding those little stories to them. Go to Instagram, you know, there's different story. And you're gonna figure out which one of these hooks really resonates with the different audiences that you're on. Now, eventually, we're going to talk next week about your target audience. I had to look at I have a blackboard here. So anyway, we're going to talk about your target audience next week. And that's where you're throwing these hooks to. But like, first things first, highlight those from your story, those hooks from your story, and then put those on a separate piece of paper. And we're really going to try to refine those so, you know, you could have the same hook, but you could have 5 different varieties of that hook. For example, like the story I just told you, you know, I lived in a tiny house, you know. I mean, I could spin that so many different ways. Like, think of 5 different ways you could spin that so that you could resonate with different people, you know. I mean, like, who likes to hear about a guy who grew up rich, you know, and drove a Porsche around high school, and then, you know, you learned how to play guitar and you know, played in a band, you know, and like, oh, this is how I did it. Well, yeah, when you got resources like that can definitely help, you know. But so chances are, there's the 80-20 rule, but I'm going to go 90-10. 90% of you have a story that can resonate with mass audiences. And like I say, we're going to get into your target audience next week. First things first, get your hooks. Make sure you have 5 to 10 hooks. 5 to 10 different little mini stories that you can throw out there to try to attract your different audience. Okay, I'm Craig from GigFaster. Now you have your assignment on what you need to do. This is your foundation. Look, we start with the story, and then we have the hooks that go out, right? And we're going to send those out, and we're going to get your audience. We're not going to be we're not going to be random about this, right? Why try all this different things when we know there are things we can do that are going to work? So we're going to find your target audience, and then we're going to bring them in, and we're going to grow your fan base, okay? And until next time, I'm Craig from GigFaster. Be sure you subscribe. If you haven't checked out the podcast, it's totally different material now. I was doing the same thing on both, but you know, I didn't like doing that. I felt like I was just putting out information for information. I don't want to do that. You know, I want it to be interesting for me and for you. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe here on YouTube. And the blog is another place where I throw all the stuff in there. We have guest posts on there. We have other stuff on there. There's tons of stuff on there as well. So keep watching, and until I see you next time, I'm Craig from GigFaster. Never quit.